Sarah held the colorful papers close to her chest as she walked down Maple Street. The sun was warm on her face, but her steps were slow and careful. In her small hands were 10 birthday invitations. She had made each one by herself the night before, using her favorite crayons and stickers. Each invitation had a drawing of a birthday cake with 7 candles. She had colored the candles in different colors: red, blue, yellow, green, purple, orange, and pink. Under each cake, she wrote the same words in her best handwriting. "Please come to my birthday party on Saturday at 2 o'clock. There will be cake and games. Love, Sarah." The 7-year-old girl had already given out most of the invitations. She gave one to Emma from her class at school. She gave another to Mrs. Johnson, who lived across the street. Mrs. Johnson always waved at her from her window and sometimes gave her cookies. She also gave one to the mailman, Mr. Pete, who knew her name and always asked about her drawings. Now Sarah had only one invitation left. She stopped in front of a white house with a red door. The yard was full of beautiful flowers. There were roses of many colors: red, pink, white, and yellow. The grass was cut short and very green. Everything looked perfect and clean. This was Mr. Henderson's house. Sarah had walked past this house every day for 2 years, but she had never talked to Mr. Henderson much. He was an old man who lived alone. She knew he was alone because she never saw anyone else at his house. Sometimes she saw him working in his garden, pulling weeds or watering his flowers. When he saw her, he would wave and smile, but they never talked for long. Sarah's mom had told her that Mr. Henderson's wife had died 3 years ago. "He must be very lonely," her mom had said one day when they walked past his house. "Maybe we should invite him for dinner sometime." But they never did invite him. There was always something else to do, or somewhere else to go. Today was different. Today, Sarah needed to give him the last invitation. She walked up the stone path to his front door, but then she heard sounds from the backyard. She walked around the side of the house and saw Mr. Henderson kneeling by his rose bushes. He had on old blue jeans and a white shirt. His gray hair was messy, and there was dirt on his hands. "Hello, Mr. Henderson," Sarah said in a quiet voice. The old man looked up and smiled. His eyes were kind and blue, like the sky on a clear day. "Hello there, Sarah. How are you today?" Sarah was surprised that he knew her name. She had never told him what her name was. Maybe her parents had talked to him before, or maybe he had heard other people say her name. "I'm okay," she said, but her voice was smaller than usual. Mr. Henderson could see that something was wrong. Sarah usually had a big smile and walked with quick, happy steps. Today she looked tired, and her smile seemed forced. "Are you sure you're okay?" he asked, standing up and brushing the dirt off his hands. Sarah nodded, but she didn't look up at him. Instead, she looked down at the last invitation in her hands. The paper was getting wrinkled because she had been holding it so tight. "I have something for you," she said finally. She held out the invitation to Mr. Henderson. He took it gently and looked at the colorful drawing. He could see that Sarah had spent a long time making it. Every line was drawn with care, and she had even added glitter around the edges. "This is beautiful, Sarah," Mr. Henderson said. "Did you make this yourself?" "Yes," Sarah said, and for the first time that day her smile looked real. "I made 10 of them. This is the last one." Mr. Henderson read the invitation carefully. When he finished reading, he looked at Sarah with surprise. "You want me to come to your birthday party?" "Yes," Sarah said. "Will you come?" The old man was quiet for a moment. He had not been to a child's birthday party in many years. When his own children were young, he had gone to many parties. But his children were grown up now and lived far away. His grandchildren lived far away too. He had not celebrated a birthday with a child for a very long time. "Are you sure you want an old man like me at your party?" he asked. "Won't your friends think it's strange?" Sarah looked up at him with serious eyes. "My mom says you're a nice man. She says nice people make good friends no matter how old they are." Mr. Henderson felt something warm in his chest when Sarah said this. It had been a long time since someone had called him a nice man. It had been a long time since someone had wanted to be his friend. "Well, when you put it that way," he said, "I would be happy to come to your party." Sarah's face lit up with joy, but then her expression changed. She looked worried again. "There's something I need to tell you," she said in a very quiet voice. "What is it, sweetheart?" Sarah looked down at her feet. She was wearing pink shoes with white flowers on them. Her mom had bought them for her last month, before everything got so hard. "My mommy is sick," Sarah said. "She's been sick for a long time. She gets very tired, and sometimes she has to lie down during the day. Sometimes she can't eat because the medicine makes her feel bad." Mr. Henderson's heart hurt when he heard this. He had wondered why he hadn't seen Sarah's mother outside much lately. He had wondered why Sarah seemed to walk to school by herself now. "I'm very sorry to hear that," Mr. Henderson said. "What kind of sick is she?" "The doctors call it cancer," Sarah said. The word sounded too big for her small voice. "She has to go to the hospital a lot. She has to take medicine that makes her hair fall out. She wears pretty scarves on her head now, but she still looks beautiful to me." Mr. Henderson knelt down so he could look at Sarah eye to eye. "I'm sure she is still very beautiful," he said, "and I'm sure she loves you very much." "She does," Sarah said, "and I love her too. That's why I want to have this party." "Tell me about that," Mr. Henderson said gently. Sarah took a deep breath. "My mommy used to smile all the time. She would sing songs while she cooked dinner. She would dance with me in the living room. She would laugh when we watched funny movies. Together." "That sounds wonderful," Mr. Henderson said. "But now she doesn't smile as much," Sarah continued. "She tries to. But I can tell when she's pretending. She thinks I don't notice, but I do. I see her crying sometimes when she thinks I'm not looking." Mr. Henderson felt tears in his own eyes, but he tried not to let Sarah see them. "So I thought," Sarah said, "if I have a really good birthday party with cake and balloons and nice people, maybe she will smile for real again. Maybe she will remember how to be happy, even when she feels sick." "That's a very thoughtful thing to do," Mr. Henderson said. "My daddy works all the time now," Sarah explained. "He has 2 jobs because the hospital costs a lot of money. He leaves early in the morning and comes home late at night. He's tired too, but he tries to play with me when he can." Sarah looked up at Mr. Henderson with hopeful eyes. "So will you come? My mommy always smiles when she meets nice people. She likes to talk to our neighbors. If you come to my party, I think she will smile for real. She'll be happy because I have a friend like you." Mr. Henderson felt his heart break and heal at the same time. This little girl was trying to take care of her sick mother by throwing a birthday party. She believed that having good people around would help her mother feel better. Maybe she was right. "Of course I'll come," Mr. Henderson said. "I wouldn't miss it for anything in the world." Sarah threw her arms around Mr. Henderson's neck and gave him a big hug. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you so much." As Mr. Henderson hugged the little girl back, he made a promise to himself. This would not just be any birthday party. This would be the best birthday party Sarah had ever had. He would make sure of it. "Mommy's sick," Sarah had said, "but she'll still smile if you come to my party." Mr. Henderson was going to make sure that was true. That night, Mr. Henderson could not stop thinking about Sarah. He sat in his kitchen, drinking a cup of tea and looking at the birthday invitation. The little girl's drawing was taped to his refrigerator now, right next to a photo of his late wife, Margaret. Margaret would have loved Sarah, Mr. Henderson thought. His wife had always been good with children. She knew how to talk to them and how to make them laugh. If Margaret were still alive, she would have already been over to the Martinez house with a casserole and offers to help. But Margaret had been gone for 3 years now, and Mr. Henderson had been living alone ever since. He had grown used to quiet dinners and empty rooms. He had grown used to talking only to himself and to Margaret's photo. Sometimes whole days went by without him speaking to another person. Now a 7-year-old girl had invited him to her birthday party, and suddenly his quiet house felt too quiet. He wanted to know more about Sarah's family. He wanted to understand what they were going through. Most of all, he wanted to help, but he didn't know how. The next morning, Mr. Henderson woke up early and went outside to work in his garden. He always worked in his garden when he needed to think. The roses didn't ask questions or expect answers. They just needed water and care. And in return, they grew beautiful and strong. As he was pulling weeds from around his rose bushes, he heard a voice from the next yard. "Good morning, Mr. Henderson." He looked up and saw Mrs. Chen, his neighbor on the left side. She was an older Chinese woman who had lived on Maple Street for 15 years. She was always friendly, but they didn't talk very often. Usually they just waved to each other when they got their mail. "Good morning, Mrs. Chen," Mr. Henderson replied. "Beautiful day, isn't it?" "Yes, very beautiful," she agreed. She was watering the flowers in her front yard. "Mr. Henderson, can I ask you something?" "Of course. I saw little Sarah talking to you yesterday. She looked very serious. Is everything okay?" Mr. Henderson put down his gardening tools and walked over to the fence between their yards. "She invited me to her birthday party this Saturday, Mrs. Chen smiled. "That's wonderful. Sarah is such a sweet child. But I have to tell you, I'm worried about that family." "What do you mean?" Mr. Henderson asked. Though he had a feeling he knew what she was going to say. Mrs. Chen looked around to make sure no one else was listening. Then she spoke in a lower voice. "The mother, Maria, is very sick. She has cancer. It's been going on for about 6 months now." Mr. Henderson nodded. "Sarah told me that yesterday." "It's very hard," Mrs. Chen continued. "I see Sarah walking to school by herself every morning. I see her father, Roberto, leaving for work before the sun comes up. He works at the factory during the day and drives a taxi at night. He's trying to pay for all the medical bills." "That must be very difficult," Mr. Henderson said. "Maria used to work at the elementary school," Mrs. Chen explained. "She was a teacher's helper. All the children loved her. But she had to stop working when she got sick. Now they have less money and more expenses." Mr. Henderson felt his heart grow heavy. "Is there anything we can do to help?" Mrs. Chen sighed. "I've tried. I bring them dinner sometimes, and I offered to watch Sarah after school, but Maria is proud. She doesn't want to ask for help. She doesn't want people to feel sorry for her." "I can understand that," Mr. Henderson said. His own wife had been the same way when she was sick. She had wanted to keep doing everything herself, even when it was hard. "Sarah is trying to take care of everyone," Mrs. Chen said. "She helps with the cooking and cleaning. She does her homework by herself. She tries to keep her mother's spirits up. It's too much for a 7-year-old child." Mr. Henderson thought about his conversation with Sarah the day before. Now, he understood why she seemed so serious, so grown up for her age. She was carrying worries that no child should have to carry. "Mrs. Chen," he said, "what do you know about this birthday party Sarah is planning?" "Oh, she's been talking about it for weeks," Mrs. Chen replied. "She's so excited. She's been saving her allowance money to buy decorations. Last week I saw her at the dollar store, counting her coins very carefully. She bought streamers and balloons and paper plates with flowers on them. Has she invited many people?" "I think she's invited everyone she knows," Mrs. Chen said. "She gave me an invitation last week. She also invited Mrs. Johnson from across the street, and the mailman, and her teacher. I don't think she realizes that most adults don't usually come to children's birthday parties." Mr. Henderson felt something tighten in his chest. What if no one came to Sarah's party? What if all the adults found excuses not to come? What if Sarah had planned this whole party to make her mother smile, and then no one showed up? "Mrs. Chen," he said, "are you planning to go?" "Of course," she said quickly. "I wouldn't miss it. That little girl has been through enough disappointment. I'm going to bring homemade cookies." "Good," Mr. Henderson said. "I'll be there too." After Mrs. Chen went back inside, Mr. Henderson continued working in his garden, but his mind was somewhere else. He was thinking about Sarah and her family. He was thinking about how hard it must be for Roberto to work 2 jobs and still worry about his wife. He was thinking about how hard it must be for Maria to be sick and watch her daughter grow up too fast. That afternoon, Mr. Henderson decided to take a walk around the neighborhood. He told himself he was just getting exercise, but really he wanted to learn more about the Martinez family. He wanted to see their house and understand their situation better. Sarah's house was 5 doors down from his own. It was a small white house with blue shutters and a tiny front yard. The grass needed cutting, and there were a few weeds in the flower beds, but overall it looked well cared for. There was a small vegetable garden on the side of the house with tomatoes and peppers growing in neat rows. As Mr. Henderson walked by, he saw movement in the front window. The curtain moved slightly, and he caught a glimpse of a woman's face. She had dark hair covered by a colorful scarf, and even from a distance he could see that she was thin and pale. This must be Maria, Sarah's mother. Their eyes met for just a moment through the window. Maria smiled and waved, and Mr. Henderson waved back. Then the curtain fell back into place and she was gone. Mr. Henderson continued his walk, but he couldn't stop thinking about what he had seen. Maria had looked so young, probably not much older than his own daughter. She had smiled when she saw him, but he could see the tiredness in her eyes, even from far away. When he got home, Mr. Henderson called his daughter Lisa, who lived in another state. Lisa was a nurse, and he thought she might have some advice about helping families dealing with cancer. "Dad, it's so good to hear from you," Lisa said when she answered the phone. "How are you doing?" "I'm fine, sweetheart. But I need to ask you about something. There's a family in my neighborhood that's going through a hard time." Mr. Henderson told Lisa about Sarah and her parents. He told her about the birthday party invitation and about his conversation with Mrs. Chen. Lisa listened carefully. When he finished talking, she was quiet for a moment. "Dad," she said finally, "it sounds like this little girl is trying to do something very important. Children understand more than we think they do. She knows her mother is sad and she's trying to find a way to help. Do you think a birthday party will really help? Mr. Henderson asked. It might, Lisa said. When people are going through cancer treatment, they often feel isolated and alone. They lose touch with friends and neighbors. Sometimes they feel like a burden to other people. Having a party, having people come together to celebrate, might remind Maria that she's not alone. It might remind the whole family that people care about them. What can I do to help? Mr. Henderson asked. Just be there, Lisa said. Show up to the party, be kind, let them know you care. Sometimes that's the most important thing you can do. After he hung up the phone, Mr. Henderson sat in his living room and looked at Margaret's photo. What would you do, sweetheart? He asked the picture. He could almost hear Margaret's voice in his head. She would say, Don't just go to the party, Harold. Make it special. Make it memorable. Give that little girl and her mother something to smile about. Mr. Henderson nodded to why himself. He knew what he had to do. This birthday party was going to be more than just a party. It was going to be a celebration of hope and community and love. He was going to make sure of it. The next few days flew by as Mr. Henderson made his plans. He was going to give Sarah and her family the best birthday party they had ever seen. Because sometimes, when life gets hard, the most important thing you can do is show up for each other. And Mr. Henderson was definitely going to show up. Saturday morning came with bright sunshine and a gentle breeze. Mr. Henderson woke up early, more excited than he had been in months. Today was Sarah's birthday party, and he had been preparing for 3 days. In his kitchen, a chocolate cake sat on the counter covered with smooth chocolate frosting. He had stayed up late the night before, following his wife Margaret's old recipe. The cake had 3 layers, just like Margaret used to make for special occasions. On top, he had written, Happy 7th Birthday, Sarah, in pink frosting letters. Next, to the cake was a large bouquet of roses from his garden. He had cut the most beautiful ones, red roses, pink roses, and white roses all mixed together. Margaret had always said that roses made every occasion more special. Mr. Henderson had also wrapped a present for Sarah. It was a set of art supplies, crayons, colored pencils, markers, and a big pad of drawing paper. He remembered how carefully Sarah had made his invitation, and he thought she would like to have good supplies for her artwork. At exactly 1:30, Mr. Henderson walked down Maple Street toward Sarah's house. He carried the cake in one hand, the flowers in the other hand, and the present under his arm. Other neighbors were walking in the same direction. He saw Mrs. Chen carrying a plate of cookies. He saw Mrs. Johnson from across the street carrying a wrapped gift. He saw the teenage boy who delivered newspapers, looking a little nervous, but carrying a small present. Mr. Henderson felt something warm in his chest. People were coming to Sarah's party. The little girl's invitations had worked. When he reached Sarah's house, he could hear music playing in the backyard. There were balloons tied to the mailbox and colorful streamers hanging from the porch. A sign on the front door said, Welcome to Sarah's 7th birthday party, in the same careful handwriting he had seen on his invitation. Mr. Henderson walked around to the backyard, following the sound of voices and laughter. What he saw made him stop and smile. The small backyard had been transformed into a party wonderland. There were balloons everywhere, red ones, blue ones, yellow ones, and pink ones. Streamers hung from the trees and the fence. A folding table was set up with a bright tablecloth, paper plates, and plastic cups. Everything looked festive and happy. But the most important thing Mr. Henderson saw was Sarah's face. The little girl was glowing with joy. She wore a pink dress with white flowers, and her hair was held back with a matching pink headband. She looked like any normal 7-year-old celebrating her birthday, except for the careful way she kept looking over at her mother. Maria Martinez sat in a lawn chair near the back door of the house. She was wrapped in a soft yellow blanket, even, though the day was warm. Her head was covered with a bright blue scarf, and Mr. Henderson could see that Mrs. Chen had been right. She was very thin and pale. But she was smiling, and her smile looked real. "Mr. Henderson!" Sarah called out when she saw him. She ran across the yard and threw her arms around his waist. "You came! You really came!" "Of course I came," Mr. Henderson said, hugging her back. "I wouldn't miss your birthday for anything. Happy birthday, sweetheart." Sarah looked at everything he was carrying. Her eyes got wide when she saw the 3-layer cake. "Did you make that for me?" "I sure did," Mr. Henderson said. "It was my wife's special recipe. I thought you might like chocolate." "I love chocolate," Sarah said. "It's my favorite. Mommy, look what Mr. Henderson brought." Maria smiled and waved from her chair. "That's so kind of you, Mr. Henderson. Please, come say hello." Mr. Henderson walked over to Maria, still carrying his gifts. Up close, he could see how young she really was, probably in her early 30s. Her eyes were bright and intelligent, but there were dark circles under them that spoke of pain and sleepless nights. "Mrs. Martinez," he said, "it's so nice to finally meet you properly. I'm Harold Henderson." "Please call me Maria," she said, extending a thin hand for him to shake. "And thank you so much for coming. Sarah has been talking about you all week. She was so excited that you said yes to her invitation." "The pleasure is all mine," Mr. Henderson said, "and these are for you." He handed her the bouquet of roses. Maria's eyes filled with tears as she took the flowers. "They're beautiful," she whispered. "It's been so long since anyone brought me flowers." "Every lady deserves flowers," Mr. Henderson said gently, especially on her daughter's birthday. Just then, more guests arrived. Mrs. Chen came into the backyard with her plate of cookies, followed by Mrs. Johnson and her husband. The mailman, Mr. Pete, arrived with his wife and their teenage daughter. Sarah's teacher, Miss Rodriguez, came with a big wrapped present. Even the teenage newspaper boy had brought his younger sister. Sarah ran from person to person, thanking everyone for coming and showing them where to put their gifts. Mr. Henderson watched her and marveled at how grown up she seemed, like a little hostess taking care of her guests. But every few minutes, Sarah would run back to her mother's chair to check on her. "Are you okay, Mommy? Do you need anything? Are you happy?" And every time Maria would smile and say, "I'm perfect, baby. I'm so happy to see all your friends here." Roberto, Sarah's father, arrived home from his morning job just as the party was getting started. He was a tall, thin man with kind eyes and calloused hands. Mr. Henderson could see that he was tired, the kind of tired that comes from working too hard for too long. But when he saw all the people in his backyard, celebrating his daughter's birthday, his face lit up with surprise and gratitude. "Sarah," he said, picking up his daughter and spinning her around, "look at all these people. Did you invite the whole neighborhood?" "Almost," Sarah laughed. "I wanted Mommy to see how many friends we have." Roberto looked around at all the neighbors gathered in his yard. Some of these people he had lived near for years but had never really talked to. Others he had never met at all. But they were all here celebrating with his family. "Thank you," he said to the group, his voice thick with emotion. "Thank you all for being here. This means more to us than you know." Mr. Henderson stepped forward. "We're neighbors," he said simply. "Neighbors take care of each other." The party continued with games and laughter. They played pin the tail on the donkey, and musical chairs, and a treasure hunt that Sarah had planned herself. The adults joined in the games, acting silly and making the children laugh. Mrs. Chen won the musical chairs competition, which made everyone cheer. Throughout it all, Mr. Henderson kept watching Maria. With each game, with each laugh, with each new person who stopped to talk to her, she seemed to come alive a little more. The color in her cheeks got a little brighter. Her smile got a little bigger. Her voice got a little stronger. When it was time to cut the cake, Sarah insisted that her mother help her. Maria was weak and had to hold on to Roberto's arm to stand up, but she made it to the table. Together, mother and daughter cut the first piece of Mr. Henderson's chocolate cake. "Make a wish, Mommy," Sarah said as they prepared to cut the cake. "Make a wish with me." Maria closed her eyes and was quiet for a moment. Then she opened them and looked around at all the people gathered in her backyard. "My wish already came true," she said softly. As people ate cake and talked and laughed, Mr. Henderson found himself in conversations with neighbors he had barely spoken to before. He learned that Mrs. Johnson used to be a nurse and had offered to help Maria with her medical questions. He learned that the mailman's wife was a social worker who knew about programs that could help families with medical expenses. He learned that the teenage newspaper boy was actually very good at yard work and had been quietly mowing the Martinez family's lawn for weeks without telling anyone. All around him, Mr. Henderson could see connections being made. Phone numbers were being exchanged. Offers of help were being made and accepted. Mrs. Chen was making plans to teach Sarah how to cook some simple meals. Miss Rodriguez was arranging for Sarah to have some extra help with her homework. Mrs. Johnson was writing down the names of doctors she knew who specialized in Maria's type of cancer. What had started as a little girl's birthday party was becoming something much bigger. It was becoming a community coming together to support a family in need. As the afternoon went on, Mr. Henderson noticed that Maria was getting tired. The excitement and activity of the party were wonderful, but they were also exhausting for someone who was fighting a serious illness. He saw Roberto notice too, and he saw the way Roberto gently suggested that his wife should rest. But Maria didn't want to miss a moment of her daughter's happiness. "I'm fine," she kept saying. "I want to see Sarah open her presents." So they gathered around as Sarah opened gift after gift. Art supplies from Mr. Henderson, books from her teacher, a beautiful doll from Mrs. Johnson, homemade cookies in a pretty tin from Mrs. Chen. Each gift was opened with excitement and gratitude. The last gift was from Sarah's parents. It was a small box, and when Sarah opened it, she found a delicate silver necklace with a heart-shaped pendant. "It was my grandmother's," Maria explained. "I wanted to give it to you when you were old, enough to take care of it. I think 7 is old enough." Sarah held the necklace carefully like it was made of glass. "It's beautiful, Mommy. Will you put it on me?" With shaking hands, Maria fastened the necklace around her daughter's neck. As she did, Mr. Henderson saw tears in her eyes, and he understood. This wasn't just a birthday gift. This was a mother, passing down something precious to her daughter, not knowing if she would be there for the next birthday, or the one after that. But today, she was here. Today, she was surrounded by friends and neighbors and love. Today, her daughter was happy and celebrating and surrounded by people who cared about her. As the party began to wind down and guests started to say their goodbyes, Sarah ran up to Mr. Henderson one more time. "Thank you for coming," she said, giving him another big hug. "Thank you for the cake and the flowers and the art supplies, but most of all, thank you for making my mommy smile." Mr. Henderson looked over at Maria, who was still sitting in her lawn chair, still wrapped in her yellow blanket, but looking more alive and happy than she had probably felt in months. "You were right, sweetheart," Mr. Henderson said to Sarah. "Your mommy did smile when I came to your party. She smiled a lot." As Mr. Henderson walked home that evening, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. He felt useful. He felt needed. He felt like he was part of something bigger than himself. Sarah had invited him to a birthday party, but she had given him something much more valuable. She had given him a family to care about and a reason to get up in the morning with. Purpose. And tomorrow he would start planning how he could help them even more. 3 months had passed since Sarah's birthday party, and Maple Street had become a different place. What started with one little girl's invitation had grown into something much bigger. The neighbors who had barely spoken to each other before were now close friends who looked out for each other every day. Mr. Henderson stood in his garden on a crisp autumn morning, cutting roses for Maria. It had become his weekly tradition. Every Tuesday, he would cut the most beautiful flowers from his garden and take them to her before driving her to her doctor appointment. The roses seemed to make her smile, even on the days when she felt terrible from her treatments. Today was special, though. Today, Maria was going to get the results of her latest tests. The doctors would tell her if the cancer treatment was working. Mr. Henderson had been praying every night for good news, and he knew the whole neighborhood had been, doing the same thing. At 9 o'clock, Mr. Henderson walked to the Martinez house with his roses and his car keys. Roberto had already left for work, but he would meet them at the hospital during his lunch break. This had become their routine. Mr. Henderson would drive Maria to her appointments, Mrs. Johnson would meet them there to help with medical questions, and Roberto would join them when he could. Sarah opened the front door before Mr. Henderson could knock. She was dressed for school in a blue dress and white sweater, her backpack already on her shoulders. "Good morning, Mr. Henderson," she said with a big smile. "Are those flowers for Mommy?" "They sure are," he said, handing her the bouquet. "How is she feeling today?" "She's nervous," Sarah said quietly. "She didn't eat much breakfast, but she says she feels strong." Mr. Henderson nodded. He understood being nervous. He was nervous, too. Maria appeared in the doorway, moving slowly but dressed nicely in a pink blouse and black pants. She had gained some weight over the past few months, thanks to Mrs. Chen's cooking and the support of her friends. Her face had more color now, and though she still wore scarves on her head, she looked healthier than she had at the birthday party. "Harold," she said warmly, using his first name as she had started doing weeks ago. "Thank you for the beautiful roses, and thank you for driving me today." "It's my pleasure," Mr. Henderson said. "Are you ready to go?" "As ready as I can be," Maria said. She knelt down to hug Sarah goodbye. "Have a good day at school, baby. Mrs. Chen will pick you up and take you to her house until Daddy gets home. Will you call me as soon as you know?" Sarah asked. "The very first thing I do," Maria promised. The drive to the hospital was quiet. Maria stared out the window, lost in her own thoughts. Mr. Henderson didn't try to make conversation. He had learned over the past few months that sometimes the most helpful thing he could do was just be present, without needing to fill every silence with words. Mrs. Johnson was waiting for them in the hospital lobby, holding a notebook where she had written down questions to ask the doctor. She had become an expert on Maria's type of cancer, reading medical journals and talking to other nurses she knew. Maria always felt more confident when Mrs. Johnson was with her. "How are you feeling?" Mrs. Johnson asked as they walked to the elevator. "Scared," Maria said honestly, "but grateful. Whatever happens today, I know I have good friends with me." Dr. Martinez, Maria's oncologist, was a kind woman in her 50s, with gray hair and gentle eyes. She had been taking care of Maria for 8 months now, through surgery and chemotherapy and radiation. She knew how important this day was. "Maria," Dr. Martinez said as they sat down in her office, "I have your test results." Mr. Henderson felt his heart beating fast. Next to him, Mrs. Johnson reached over and took Maria's hand. "The tumors have shrunk significantly," Dr. Martinez continued. "The cancer has responded very well to treatment. We're not ready to use the word cured yet, but these are the best results we could have hoped for." Maria started crying immediately. Mrs. Johnson started crying too. Mr. Henderson felt tears in his own eyes as he watched Maria's face transform with relief and joy. "What does this mean?" Maria asked through her tears. "It means we're going to continue treatment for a few more months, but at a reduced level," Dr. Martinez explained. "It means your prognosis is much better than we originally thought. It means you have every reason to be hopeful about the future." "Can I tell my daughter?" Maria asked. "You can tell everyone," Dr. Martinez said with a smile. "This is wonderful news." The first person Maria called was Sarah. Mr. Henderson and Mrs. Johnson waited in the hallway while she used the phone in Dr. Martinez's office. "Sarah, baby, it's Mommy," they heard her say. "The doctor says I'm getting better. The medicine is working. Mommy is going to be okay." Even from the hallway, they could hear Sarah's happy screams through the phone. The second call was to Roberto. He was so relieved he had to sit down in the middle of his work shift. His boss, who had become very understanding about Roberto's situation over the past few months, told him to take the rest of the day off to celebrate with his family. The third call was to Mrs. Chen, who immediately started planning a celebration dinner for that evening. By the time they got back to Maple Street, news of Maria's good test results had spread through the neighborhood. There were balloons tied to the Martinez family's mailbox. Again, just like on Sarah's birthday. Mrs. Chen was already in their kitchen, cooking a feast. Tommy, the teenager who delivered newspapers, had mowed their lawn and was now planting mums in their flower beds. Sarah was home from school early, having convinced her teacher to let her leave when she got the good news. She was practically bouncing with excitement when she saw her mother get out of Mr. Henderson's car. "Mommy!" she yelled, running across the yard and throwing herself into Maria's arms. "You're really going to be okay?" "I'm really going to be okay," Maria said, holding her daughter tight. "We're all going to be okay." That evening, the same neighbors who had come to Sarah's birthday party 3 months earlier gathered again in the Martinez backyard. But this time, it wasn't just Sarah's celebration. It was a celebration for the whole family, for the whole community, for the power of hope and friendship and love. Mr. Henderson brought another cake, this one with "Congratulations, Maria" written in pink. Frosting. Mrs. Chen had cooked enough food to feed an army. Mrs. Johnson brought flowers from her own garden. Even Tommy's little sister had made a welcome home card for Maria. As the sun set and the party continued, Mr. Henderson found himself standing next to Sarah near the fence that separated the Martinez yard from his own. "Mr. Henderson," Sarah said, taking his hand, "remember when I invited you to my birthday party?" "Of course I remember," he said. "That was one of the most important days of my life." "I told you that Mommy would smile if you came to my party," Sarah said. You were right, Mr. Henderson said. She smiled a lot that day. But I didn't tell you the whole truth, Sarah said, looking up at him with serious eyes. What do you mean? I invited you because I thought you looked lonely, Sarah said. I saw you working in your garden all by yourself, and I thought you needed friends too. I thought maybe if you came to my party, you would be part of our family. Mr. Henderson felt his throat tighten with emotion. You invited me because you thought I needed friends? Everybody needs friends, Sarah said simply. And now you're like my grandpa, and Mrs. Chen is like my grandma, and Mrs. Johnson is like my aunt, and Tommy is like my big brother. We're all family now. Mr. Henderson looked around the backyard at all the people laughing and talking and eating together. Roberto was telling stories that made everyone laugh. Maria was sitting in her lawn chair, but she looked strong and healthy and happy. Mrs. Chen was teaching some of the younger children how to play a Chinese game. Mrs. Johnson was deep in conversation with Dr. Martinez, who had surprised everyone by stopping by after work. You're right, Mr. Henderson said to Sarah. We are all family now. And it all started because I asked you to come to my birthday party, Sarah said proudly. No, Mr. Henderson said, squeezing her hand. It all started because you have a big heart and you care about people. You saw that your mother needed to smile, and you saw that I needed to belong somewhere, and you found a way to help both of us at the same time. Sarah thought about this for a moment. Do you think other people are lonely like you were? Probably, Mr. Henderson said. There are probably lots of people who need friends and don't know how to ask for them. Then we should invite them, too, Sarah said matter-of-factly. We should have more parties. We should make our family even bigger. Mr. Henderson laughed. I think that's a wonderful idea. As the party wound down and neighbors started to head home, Mr. Henderson helped clean up the backyard one more time. But tonight felt different from Sarah's birthday party 3 months ago. Tonight, instead of saying goodbye at the end of the evening, people were making plans for tomorrow and next week and next month. Mrs. Chen was planning to teach Maria how to make her famous dumplings. Mrs. Johnson was organizing a group of neighbors to visit other families in the area who might need support. Tommy was going to help Roberto build a small playground in the backyard for Sarah. Dr. Martinez had agreed to speak at a community meeting about how neighbors could better support families dealing with serious illness. The birthday party had been the beginning. But this celebration felt like something even more important. It felt like a promise that they would continue to take care of each other, no matter what challenges came next. As Mr. Henderson walked home that night, he stopped to look back at the Martinez house. The lights were on in the windows, and he could see the family inside, probably getting ready for bed. Sarah would sleep peacefully tonight, knowing her mother was going to be okay. Maria would sleep peacefully too, knowing she had the support she needed to continue fighting. Roberto would sleep peacefully, knowing he didn't have to carry all the worry by himself anymore. And Mr. Henderson would sleep peacefully too, knowing that tomorrow he would wake up with people to care about and reasons to get out of bed. 3 months ago, a 7-year-old girl had knocked on his door with a birthday invitation and a simple request. Mommy's sick, but she'll still smile if you come to my party. Sarah had been right about her mother smiling, but she had given Mr. Henderson something even more valuable than that. She had given him a family. She had given him a purpose. She had given him a second chance at happiness. Sometimes the most important things in life come in the smallest packages. Sometimes a child's invitation to a birthday party can change everything. Sometimes the best way to heal your own broken heart is to help someone else heal theirs. And sometimes When you think your story is ending, it's really just beginning.